Hello, everybody. I'm Gaylord Carter. The tune I just played is called The Perfect Song. It was written for the 1916 movie, The Birth of a Nation. Later on, when I played for the radio show Amos and Andy, this tune was the show's theme song. And I've played it so often since that I consider it to be my theme song. For more than 60 years, I've played theater organ, starting first in small neighborhood houses, then graduating to larger, more important theaters. My career has paralleled that of many other theater organists. Our job was to provide accompaniment to silent pictures, perform organ solos, and to accompany sing-alongs. In small theaters, the organists were the sole source of musical accompaniment, but in the larger theaters, we frequently alternated with orchestras. As a sample of what we did, watch this. Pretty hair-raising, isn't it? Well, as the movies grew up, so did the scope of the presentations. We didn't just have a single movie like so many theaters have today. We had a newsreel, short subjects, stage shows, organ solos, sing-along, all of which were aimed at giving the movie-going public something for its money. 50 cents bought you an awful lot of entertainment. The teens and the 20s were a great time for theaters and for musicians. But when the Depression hit, a lot of the smaller theaters couldn't afford to keep musicians on their staffs. With the advent of sound, there was a way out. Picture companies like Paramount and others filmed big-name organists doing their thing and offered these short subjects to the smaller theaters through their regular distribution channels. In a way, it's wonderful that these little films were made because they offer us an opportunity to see performers who we might otherwise only hear on scratchy 78 records. Funny thing is, the picture companies must have thought that what the organist was doing visually was of no particular interest to the paying customers. So much of the time is given to shots of something other than the organist, waving forest of trees, waterfalls, children and animals, rivers and canoes seem to occupy the filmmaker's visual imagination. You'll see what I mean when we look at the first organ log featuring Jesse Crawford, the poet of the organ. Jess first started playing professionally on the West Coast, moved on to Chicago, where he made a big hit, then on to New York, where he was appointed chief organist at Paramount's flagship house, the New York Paramount. Crawford was largely self-taught, but through discipline and constant practice got himself to the absolute top of the heap. He got the billing poet of the organ because of his extremely precise yet romantic and seemingly simple style. But don't get me wrong, Crawford's simplicity is the result of lots of hard work. Watch this. Kind of restful, huh? Well, what you've just seen was the beginning of MTV or music videos 1930s style. But don't get the idea that the only things that Crawford played were subdued. In 1926, Crawford recorded the up-tempo tune Valencia, his all-time smash hit. It went right to the top of the charts and stayed there for quite a while. Though Crawford is reputed to not have liked doing sing-alongs, the fact is that he did do them. Audiences loved to sing along with the tunes he played. Coming up is a sample of a Crawford sing-along, and you'll note, though it's pretty dignified, there's still a lot of zip to Jesse's playing.
Presenting Jesse Crawford, Foot of the Organ. We've got to teach those bluebirds how to fly, throw dull care to the winds. We've got to put that sun back in the sky. Do I hear a gloomy strain? No, put a smile on. Meet the rainbow halfway. Yes, let's sing a new song. Let there be no depressing thoughts. Look for the brighter side of life. Wish hard enough and dreams do become true. Spread a message of good cheer, for just beyond the blue horizon lies the rising sun.
In the early 50s, Jesse Crawford left New York and moved to Los Angeles. And shortly after he arrived here, he arranged to teach theater organ classes on Wilshire Boulevard. And about that time, I went to an organ recital in a big church in downtown LA, and a good friend of mine, Chauncey Haynes, had brought Jesse Crawford to the concert. And after it was over, he introduced Crawford to me, and Jesse very kindly said, Gaylord, I'm awfully glad to meet you because my students don't believe that I don't know you. A prominent organist in New York during the 1920s and 30s was Lew White. When Crawford was at the Paramount, White was at the Roxy, and there was quite a competition between the two. In the early 40s, 1941, I believe it was, I went to New York with the Amos and Andy show, and I was introduced to Lew White. And his first words to me were, Carter, how much money do you earn out on the coast? Lew White studied with Ernest Schelling, Herman Fitzner, and Dr. Alexander Matthews. Prior to going to the Roxy, Lew had been chief organist for the Stanley Company of America, a large theater chain of the day. White's style was quite different from Jesse Crawford's and Ann Leaf's. In fact, he probably went out of his way to make sure that it was different. In a word, you might call it breezy. Check out the mildly outrageous cartoons in the following.
Howdy, folks, howdy. This is Louis Dean, your old song leader. I'm just about to dish out a flock of new songs on the subject of love. Springtime, my friends, brings the daffodils, the crocuses, the bluebirds, and love. Of course, it also brings hay fever, sinus trouble, and income taxes, but who cares? Who cares as long as we can sing to love? Love, that funny thing.
Love, you funny thing, look at what you did to me. Love, you funny thing, you haven't any sympathy. First, you come and bring happiness into my heart. Then, you funny thing, you go and tear it right apart. My life was just a heaven below. Someone made it seem that way. Then, for no reason, she let me go. Do you call that fair play? I'm just wondering what the end is gonna be. Love, you funny thing, won't you bring her back to me?
You can't beat it, folks. But wait, that's only the beginning. Here's a nice, dignified professor, a bachelor that always thought kisses were things you bought in a candy store wrapped in cellophane. A little fluffy, you-know-what, rolls her eyes and crosses her knees, and what happens? He gets one flash and goes hot jaw. Ain't it grand, girls? Ain't it grand? Kiss by kiss he fell, and kiss by kiss we sing it. Let's go.
She is in person. I mean the sweetheart of all Erin, with her rosy cheeks, just as fresh as the morning dew that glistens on the shamrocks, and eyes as blue as the smiling skies overhead, my wild Irish rose.
ain't heard nothing. Look at this pair. Here's a little bit of a long drink of water weighing 80 pounds, soaking wet, trying to dance on a dollar bill and have enough left to eat on. They call it love. I call it madness. She thinks she's snuggled on his shoulder. He figures he's cuddled in her arms. What a life.
Snuggle on your shoulder, cuddle in your arms, dreaming while I'm dancing, thrilled by all your charms. While the music's playing, I'm in ecstasy. Sweetheart, hear me saying, this is heavenly. Dancing while lights are low, what a grand sensation. Dancing, you ought to know, you're my inspiration. Let me dance forever, dream about your charms, snuggle on your shoulder, cuddle in your arms.
In the late 20s, I was organist at the prestigious $1 Million Theater in Los Angeles. And along Broadway, about 3 blocks, was the Metropolitan Theater, and Ann Leaf was the organist there. And she played beautifully, and I used to go to hear her playing motion picture scores. And I noted that there was a lot of marvelous violin music in her scoring. And I asked her one day, I said, Ann, how come so much great violin music finds its way into your scores? And she says, simple, my husband is a violinist. Ann began studying the piano at the age of 4. At 6, she was considered an accomplished pianist, and by the age of 11, she appeared with the Omaha Symphony Orchestra. At 16, she had earned a scholarship to Juilliard. At 17, lightning struck. She discovered theater organ. With her usual speed, she became adept at the organ and was soon in demand as a soloist and silent film accompanist. With the advent of sound films, she moved over to radio with her own radio show, Nocturne. She also provided the background music for a variety of radio soaps, Stella Dallas, Woman of Courage, Nora Drake, Mr. Keene, Tracer of Lost Persons, just to name a few. Her whole life has been dedicated to music, and with her substantial musical training, it's no wonder that she brought considerable technical skill and musicality to anything she played. In the next 2 pieces, The River and Me and Liebestrom, pay particular attention to how sympathetically she has arranged the music.
I can tell my troubles to the river, 'cause he sings a song of sympathy. We are mighty like two buddies, the river and me. Even when I look at muddy waters, there's a bit of sunny sky to see, and we kind of share that sunshine, the river and me. I tell him of my wasted years and dreams that went astray. Then with the tide he takes my tears and carries them away. Every life has got to have its low tide. Why, that's the way this life was meant to be. We're just waiting for the high tide, the river and me.
Most of Dick Liebert's career was spent as head organist at Radio City Music Hall, a pretty lofty spot. But how did he get there? Well, at his father's request, Liebert first studied trombone, gave it up, turning to the piano. As a teenager, he took up playing organ and went to the Peabody Conservatory in Baltimore to pursue its study. At the same time, he played spots at the Palace Theater in Washington, D.C., then gave that up and went on the road to conduct a college band. Finally, coming back to theater organ, he stayed with it for the rest of his life. Just before the music hall was to open, the powers that be held a competition for the spot of chief organist. Some 14 or 15 people tried out. Liebert played the big Wurlitzer cold, never having seen it before, and knocked the socks off the judges. He got the job on the spot and stayed with it for almost 40 years. Dick Liebert's big block chord style seemed well suited to the music hall organ, and you'll hear more than a trace of that style in the following pictorially outrageous sing-along, Love Songs of the Nile.
Dick Liebert is charming thousands nightly with his rendition of popular airs. When he's at the consoles, the vast auditorium is hushed, and one can hear a pin drop, for they would not lose one precious note. Dick's fingers are so nimble, 'tis said, one needs the aid of a slow-motion camera to follow them. Now just listen to him play Love Songs of the Nile.
How'd you like the belly dancer? Reminds me of something out of burlesque. Over in England and Europe, the theater organ caught on with quite a bang. In fact, the heyday of theater organ lasted much longer in England than it did in the United States. One of the truly great British organists was Reginald FOORT. Reg had thorough classical training and was a member of the Royal College of Organists. One of his great strengths was transcription of orchestral pieces to the theater organ. He also was super at improvisation and the combining of various well-known melodies into musical stories. One of his best-known pieces was the Old Sailor Story. The following is a condensed version of it.
Hello, everybody. I want you to imagine that you're at the seaside and you're walking along the beach and you come across a very old sailor sitting on a boat. You get into conversation with him, and he tells you the story of his life. And that's the little story I'm going to try and tell you in music on the organ.
I do like to be beside the seaside. I do like to be beside the sea. I do like to stroll around the from where the brass bands play tiddly-um-hum-hum. Just let me be beside the seaside. I'll be beside myself to please. There are lots of things beside I would like to be beside the seaside, beside the sea.
By 1935, the winds of change were starting to blow in the music world. Radio and sound movies introduced the public to the notion of electronics. Lawrence Hammond, an inventor and businessman, came up with something which was to revolutionize the organist trade, the Hammond organ. When it was first introduced, the Hammond created quite a stir, not only for the organists, but with the pipe organ companies. Those companies saw the Hammond for what it was, competition, and just maybe the beginning of the end for theater organs. The pipe organ companies tried mightily to suppress the Hammond, but to no avail. It had caught the fancy of the public and made organs available to private homes and public establishments which had neither the money nor the space for a full theater pipe organ. For organists, it opened up whole new fields to plow, with restaurants and clubs everywhere buying them like hotcakes, and of course needing organists to play them. The introduction of the Hammond was considered so profound that the newsreel companies of the day considered the event worth covering. Here's how Paramount did the story.
An organ without pipes, without cumbersome air pressure apparatus, half the size of a grand piano, yet able to do almost anything that a huge church or theater organ can do. Amazing? Yes, and here's the secret. A simple device called a tone wheel, revolving in front of a small magnet. As these projections or bumps on the wheel pass the magnet, electric impulses are generated and a sound is heard in the loudspeaker. Turning the wheel produces a continuous note. The more projections on the wheel, the higher the note. This is the complete tone generator unit. Science has found that all musical sound consists of fundamental tones plus harmonics or overtones. The inventor here has supplied 91 tone wheels, which, ingeniously connected with the keyboard of the console, produce any desired note or tone in the musical range. Here's a simple fundamental tone. The organist adds the proper overtones by connecting additional tone wheels, and we have the sound of a horn. Another combination of overtones gives us a sound like a bell. Thus, instead of great banks of pipes to imitate different instruments, simple keyboard connections with the proper group of tone wheels produce the rich musical variety of a massive old-time organ, as demonstrated in Mr. Paul's playing of Handel's Largo.
In the middle 30s, I was playing a Hammond organ on a local radio station. And I was playing what I consider to be pretty jazzy music, and you could do that on the Hammond organ, and it was great fun. But the local Hammond dealer called me on the phone and said, "Mr. Carter, please do not mention the name Hammond on your programs because You're ruining our church business. The introduction of the Hammond didn't completely kill off the theater organ. At the major theaters and on many radio stations, organists still plied their trade on the real thing. At the Paramount on Times Square, things proceeded as usual. Jesse Crawford left for a tour of England, and his place at the Paramount console was taken by Don Baker. Baker came to New York in 1923 to be a pit pianist at the Flushing Theater on Long Island. One night, the regular organist didn't show up, and the frantic theater manager asked Baker to fill in. Don didn't know anything about the organ, but survived the night and ended up being bitten by the bug. With practice and on-the-job training, Don established himself as one of the up-and-coming organists in the New York area. By 1931, he was the organist at the Staten Island Paramount, then off for a year's tour of England and playing for the BBC. When he returned, he did a stint as a radio organist, then left to take the spot at the Paramount. Baker's work at theaters and on the road paid off at Times Square. His technical skill and musical understanding made him a favorite with the public and are well documented in our last organ log. Just for fun, notice the difference in the sound and playing between Don's rendition of Handel's Largo and that of Charles Paul at the Hammond. It's a real ear opener. I never did try playing with one of these things on, but we've all got our gimmicks. For me, it was radio, television, and the public's reawakening interest in silent films. Theater organ has been good to me as it was to many other musicians. It gave me a profession from which I not only earned my keep, but also had a great deal of fun. It also gave me a theme song. When people hear it, they think of me. I like that. And to say goodbye, I'm going to play it for you one more time, the perfect song.